I own 2 locations of the store. I generally work at one, so when I went to the other, an employee was unaware that I was the owner. She accused me of stealing from my own store, claiming that she was the owner. Here's what occurred. I founded a cell phone store with 3 of my buddies around 7 years ago. When I was around 19, we mostly repair phones, sell third-party contracts, and offer accessories such as screen protectors and covers. As the company grew, we wanted to expand. So, around 4 years ago, we established a second location on the opposite side of town. It was a single corporation with 2 sites. I was the one who spearheaded the opening of the new location, so it was essentially my project. I spent the majority of my time at the new location. After 6 to 8 months of operating the new facility, the business had stabilized and was on its own 2 feet. As a result, I was not always present at the new location. At one point, one of my partners who ran the older store was on vacation, so we agreed that I would work there a few days a week while he was gone. The other partner, who was not on vacation, would open the store in the morning and spend a few hours with the employees. I'd show up later in the day after opening the other one. When I arrived, one of my partners was on the phone in the back, speaking with one of our wholesalers, so I left him to it and went around the store. I hadn't been there in a few years, and the time I did spend there was primarily for quick deliveries. This is where the narrative begins to become good. As I was glancing around, this chick began to watch me. If I walk from one end of the store to the other, she follows me, as if she is doing inventory or something. All I could think was, okay, that's kind of weird. She was a new hire, so I hadn't met her before, but I believed she recognized me because there were photos of myself and my partners hanging around the back. So maybe she was just nervous about meeting the new boss. I was about to approach her and introduce myself when a client arrived who appeared to require assistance. I approached him and began speaking with him, but before I could respond, she interrupted the conversation with the customer and assisted him herself. After he departed, she approached me and said, "I'm sorry, but I'll have to ask you to go. You don't work here, and your sneaking around is making me quite uncomfortable. Please leave my store now." I thought, what the heck? And decided to tell her who I was to find out what she believed was going on. I asked her what she meant, and she replied, "I saw you when you came in, and I'm pretty sure you put something in your pocket." She went on to say that she is the owner of this house and does not want any problems. She just wants me to leave, so there will be no problems. She was saying all this around the time my partner got off the phone and overheard the end of the conversation. I was hiding a huge grin, as was he. He then approached us and informed us that I was one of the owners and her employer. Her cheeks flushed and her entire demeanor altered quickly. This all occurred approximately 2.5 years ago. We sometimes laugh about it, but this 5'4" redhead girl who was about to call the cops on me for simply looking around my own store is now my wife. Our first child, who is expected in approximately 3 months, will hear this narrative for the rest of his life. This narrative was unexpectedly wholesome. It is unusual for the person who caused the friction in the circumstances to marry the one presenting the story. The funniest part for me is that this kid will be sick of hearing this story over and over again for the rest of his life. Did you know your mother thought I was stealing from my own store? She informed me that she was the owner. Please let me know if you would marry the person who accused you of stealing from your own store or from below. I am giggling at my mother-in-law after she ate my special delicacies and became too baked. My wife and I recently relocated back to her hometown. We enjoy living in a major city, but we agreed when we married that if we wanted to create a family, we would relocate to a smaller town. It's unfortunate, but I'm just 45 minutes away from a movie theater and decent restaurants. It's not like we're in the woods. We live in Canada. Herb is completely legal here. I enjoy making herb butter and cooking with it. I cook brownies or fudge, which my wife and I both enjoy. She's not so much right now because she's breastfeeding. My wife requested that we give her mother a key for emergencies. I objected, but I lost the vote. So we discussed it, and I stated I was fine with it, but only in emergencies. She wasn't supposed to use it to come over and clean or anything. Her mother agreed, and we gave her the key. So she followed the guidelines for about 2 months. My wife is spending the weekend in the city, visiting friends. It is a 2-hour trip to that part of the city. She's simply staying there. I returned home last night to find my mother-in-law high as a kite in my living room. She felt that because my wife was out of town, I needed a home-cooked meal. One thing led to another, and she discovered some fudge. She was so overheated that all she did was stare at the television. "Indica will do this to you." I called my wife and laughed hysterically. She's chastising me for allowing her mother to behave so badly and for laughing at her. My mother-in-law is currently napping in the guest bedroom. My wife's stepfather came to get her, but she refused to move. We drank a few beers and watched the Jays get hammered. She entered our home and ate my belongings without my permission. I'm not too upset. She is quite helpful and has always been courteous to me. I just find it humorous, but my wife calls me a jerk for laughing at her mother. In the future, there'll be a minor update. I just spoke to my mother-in-law. She knew exactly what she was consuming. She hadn't had any in a while and I suppose was expecting more of a Cheech and Chong experience than the genetically developed hybrid that I buy. The mother knew what she was eating as she ate it. He never mentions that the mother was dissatisfied with the outcome of what happened. The wife appeared to be offended that the OP was laughing at the mother, which is a minor complaint in the larger scheme of things. My assumption up until that tiny update was that the mom ate it by accident, and perhaps part of the reason she's not upset is that she's more concerned with whether or not the OP was upset because she went into the house when she said she wouldn't and ate something without his permission. My parents have removed me from their will in favor of my sister. Is it wrong for me to feel furious over this? I am a 23-year-old man. My parents, 58 and 63, have removed me from the will in favor of my 26-year-old sister. Recently, I was assisting my parents with some late spring cleaning and throwing out a bunch of old junk when I came across what I believe to be the most recent copy of their will. I didn't want to look at it, but when I moved it, I realized that the beneficiary area on the front only named my sister. Then I knew it was a terrible thing to do, but I decided to read it. I'm not in it at all. My sister is named as the sole beneficiary. She will inherit the house, life insurance policies, savings, and car, absolutely everything. They are hardly wealthy, but given how much property prices have increased since they purchased their home in the 1980s, this likely amounts to around £500,000. They've always favored my sister over me, giving her more attention and so on, but I've never complained. She's a bit of a screw-up, and to be honest, she's needed the additional attention. I won't lie either. My financial status is significantly better than my parents. I'm engaged, and my partner and I, who have no children, earn around £45,000 each year. My sister is a single mother of 2 children, with a deadbeat father and no child support. She earns approximately £16,000 every year. I understand there is a significant discrepancy, and I wouldn't mind if they gave her a larger part to assist her out more, but leaving me with nothing feels unfair. While my fiancé and I earn more, we aren't exactly wealthy, and even if they only left me 20%, it would be more than enough to help me start saving for my own home. Obviously, all of this is hypothetical, as they are both in excellent health and have a long life ahead of them. It just seems unjust that if they died tomorrow, my sister would be well, but I would be left with nothing. Am I correct to be upset about this? Should I confront them about it or not? I know it isn't my money at all. She's a terrible daughter to them. Over the years, she has lied to them, stolen money from them and me, and had to be bailed out, fines for illicit substance charges, etc. She had barely finished school as well, so while she's financially worse off, it is entirely due to her own actions. On the other hand, I visit them all the time and assist them with whatever they need. I went to university, as they had always expected me to do. I paid for it entirely on my own, without assistance, and it appears that they are punishing me while praising her for being such a failure. For further information, they have always had a parenting style of allowing me to make my own decisions. If I wanted something, I had to do chores and acquire a job to afford it. I don't mind. It's made me more responsible. My sister, on the other hand, always got what she wanted and was never held to the same standards as me. What shall I do? There is an update from the future. Thank you for your responses. I believe the vast majority of you understood why I was unhappy, with only a few believing it was about money rather than affirmation of my long-held belief that they prefer my sister. I wanted to get everything resolved as quickly as possible, so I took the day off work and went to meet my folks. They helped me discover 2 new aspects of myself. For starters, I was an accident. Apparently, after my sister's miscarriage, my mother chose not to try again. Then, 1 year later, here I am. Because I was unplanned, they hadn't given their money much thought, so my father had to work 2 jobs for about a year and a half, and he has always felt that I caused him miss out on my sister's childhood, and that because he rarely saw me, he never really bonded with me. My mother, on the other hand, had decided not to have children after a prior miscarriage. She was content with her little kid, and at 39 was glad to be done having children. Number 2, They're disappointed in me. They do not like my fiancé. They don't like that I live 40 minutes away. They are disappointed that I picked accountancy instead of a legal degree. But most of all, they are disappointed that I am not closer to my sister. That is, friends with a girl who spent most of her life bullying me, who has treated them horribly, who owed them money on a regular basis until she moved out, and to whom I was persuaded to lend £2,000 of my savings for university so that she could pay off some debts. She never paid it back, so I had to go into debt myself to go through my final year. It's not like I'm being awful to my sister right now. I adore my niece and nephew and I spoil them often. I also occasionally assist her out with money for bills and groceries. Apparently, this is why I am not in the will and never have been, even when I was younger, and my aunts would have had custody of me until I was 18. They had, quote, never really seen me as their son. I was a little too remote and self-sufficient, which supposedly made it easy for them to love your sister more. I'm not going to get anything since they don't see me as a member of the family. Going away to university for 3 years exacerbated the situation, but it was something they had always felt. They asked if I thought what I'd done was wrong, and if I could persuade them otherwise, they would make some changes. My sister would remain the primary beneficiary, but I would receive something from them. I know you'll be unhappy with my response, but I've just departed. I told them that I didn't care about the money, and that if they can't view me as a son, I don't see them as parents. So in conclusion, I'm excluded because my parents are unhappy with my life choices, although never telling me so. Furthermore, I was undesired, so they never bonded with me or saw me as a member of the family. Because parents were so concentrated on my sister, I became self-sufficient and matured faster, which made them seem more distant. My sister means more to them than I do, and they are unwilling to modify their beliefs or try to work things out. I don't have any parents anymore. On a bright note, my prospective in-laws are fantastic, and I've been calling her mother Mom for a long now, so I do have some sort of parents. There is an update from about 10 years in the future. I'm just publishing this as an update. I found this post and remembered the old password. I am now 33 years old, happily married with 2 lovely girls, and running my own business, which I started during the COVID lockdowns and has effectively helped us become financially independent. I've had no communication with my parents or sister in the previous 11 years. My parents are still alive, and as a result of the UK's ridiculous property price increases, they are probably worth closer to £1 million now, and I'm pretty sure my sister is waiting for them to die. According to what I've heard from others, her conduct has improved. No more stealing, for example. But she is still broke and in a dead-end job because she lacks the qualifications and motivation to advance. The only person I have contact with is my nephew, my sister's son. He's nothing like his mother. He has a fantastic mind and is currently attending university to study math. My wife and I assist him with his living expenses because he would not have been able to go without them. To be honest, it seemed like a waste to him. So, given the circumstances, who has maintained zero contact for all these years? It's unusual to see an update on the same subject more than 10 years later. On the one hand, I'm glad the OP is able to live what appears to be a very fulfilling and happy life. On the other hand, it's unfortunate that parents would ever look at their own child in this way. I know some people in the original article believed he was exaggerating because he was emotional and made it sound worse than it was, but the fact that he came back 10 years later to claim he had had no contact with them makes me believe he wasn't exaggerating. I don't believe you should remove somebody from your life for that long unless they have done something severe to hurt you. The parents' rationale is plain bizarre. First and foremost, it should not matter whether the kid was in an accident. However, they also struggled to connect with him. Yeah, they had a difficult time connecting with their own child, a product of the milieu you placed him in. Of course, there is always some bias in everything, but it appears that the OP wanted a relationship with his parents, but they considered him a disappointment. I don't think he could have lived his life without disappointing them. Based on how they're portraying him as a disappointment, it seems doomed from the beginning. Anyway, I'm glad to read the OP is enjoying his best life right now, and I hope it continues to improve. I'm finished hiding it. When my younger sister was born, she nearly died of hypoxia. She had severe brain damage to the point where doctors believed she would live. She has lived to be 16 years old. However, she is as close to brain death as a living person can be. She can't move. She can't communicate. She cannot eat or drink on her own. She cannot control her bowels, so she must wear diapers. She will never recover, and she will never lead a regular life. Regardless, my mother has damaged our family, and we are looking for a miracle to help her heal. My mother has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my sister, including wheelchairs and doctor visits. We had to live in a one-bedroom apartment for 11 years since my mother spent everything she earned on my sister. Nothing she purchased made a difference. She will always drool. Because my mother believed she would recover, she had me treat her as if she were a genuine sister. Growing up, I lost all of my friends because my mother forced me to take her everywhere I went. If I told my mother I was going to the park, she would remark, "A park? That sounds nice. Like something Jess would like. Take her with you." She never considered how ridiculous she sounded talking to her. My mom once took her to a movie theater. They only made it 30 minutes into the film before the staff booted her out because she was making too much noise, coughing, and choking on her spit. Despite this, I had tolerated my sister until a few hours earlier. I mentioned to my mother that I had planned a date with a girl I met at work, and she said, "That sounds fun, but I'm having coffee with a friend from college, so can you take care of Jess while I'm gone?" I told her that I couldn't because of my date and suggested that she hire a babysitter instead. My mother then suggested that I just take her with me. Then I burst. I told her how dumb she was to suggest such a thing. Bring my severely disabled, crippled sister along with me on a date with a girl because you are too lazy to hire a sitter? How insane are you to think that's a good idea? Jess has consumed my entire life. I'm not supposed to have a job or a family of my own since I'll need to care for Jess after my mother dies. My mother even discouraged me from going to college since I would be unable to care for her. I informed her how much harm she had done to our family because of my sister. We've battled financially my entire life, not because my mother is low income, but because she spent all of our money on Jessica. We drove a crappy 1996 Subaru Outback for years, and my mom couldn't afford to buy a new car, but she had no problem shelling out thousands to see a specialist doctor who will say the same thing every other doctor has. My sister is a glitch. She is not supposed to be here. She will never live a normal life. There's no reason she shouldn't be put in a home. I'm simply really frustrated right now. I am considering cutting connections with her and reconciling with my father. My father divorced her when he realized he was going to spend the rest of his life caring for Jess. I can't blame him. My mother forbade me from contacting him, yet he isn't the evil guy here. What shall I do? There is an update from the future. Thank you for all your lovely words. I now recognize that my feelings should be directed towards my mother rather than my sister. As for everyone who suggests I contact my father, it is my plan, although he is difficult to reach. I haven't spoken with or seen him in a long time, and he lives across the country. I can't find his phone number or email address, so I'm searching Facebook and Instagram to see if he has an account I can message. I also don't know anyone on his side of the family who can put us in touch. I'm still living at home. I intend to stay for a while longer until I have saved enough money to purchase an apartment or enlist in the Navy. I work part-time while attending community college, so I don't make much money. I expect to have another update in the near future and that things will improve. Jumping ahead to the future, there is one more update that is surprising. So, if you want to skip this section, simply go to the next narrative in the movie. My mother died. I returned home to find a swarm of police cars around my home. She did it to herself with a rope, and a neighbor witnessed her through the window. I didn't have a good look at her, and I'm glad I didn't. I don't believe I could take seeing someone like that. She appeared worried over the last few days, which surprised me. Plans are currently in place to place Jess in a home. She will receive round-the-clock attention. I'm not sure what stage of sorrow I am at right now. I have a place to stay for a while and am getting my finances in order. I miss my mother. She wasn't a particularly good mother, but she was mine. I tried contacting my father through a family member on his side. To make a long tale short, my father basically stated that he had moved on from us and did not want me to intrude on his new family. It was pretty much as expected, but hearing my father say he wants to forget about me stung. I'm now staying at a friend's house. I work and attend school. Things are still difficult, but I'm pushing through. Thank you for all your kind wishes. What shall I do? The finale was darker and sadder than I had expected. There was certainly a lot going on in the mother's head that we never got to see. It's difficult to speculate on things like this without knowing, because it might be for a variety of reasons. It could be that she felt hopeless, since her daughter Jess was going to be like that for the rest of her life, and she was coming to terms with it at the same time that her son wanted to leave and sever all links with her, leaving her to shoulder full responsibility for Jess on her own. Based on how the OP narrates the tale and the highlights we get of the wider picture, it appears that this is the case. Perhaps it is absolutely unrelated. We will never really know. As much as I sympathize with the mother, doing this to yourself and abandoning your son will most likely cause him to never recover. If any of you have ever been through this, I believe it is something that most people will remember for the rest of their lives. This is sometimes referred to as the God-shaped hole, and it causes many people to become religious while also leading to substance abuse. Everyone is different, obviously, so please share your comments on the tale below, as well as any advice you would give someone in a similar situation.